and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Okay, let's talk about third parties. Well, we're seeing mainstream media go on the warpath against third parties. And I want to give a huge shout out to Case Study QB. And this is from BSDNC. I don't know how he sat through it, but these are full segments of how third parties running in the 2024 election and the independent candidates are a threat to democracy. So what? The Green Party, the Libertarian Party, independents, socialist parties, non-affiliate candidates. What are they gonna launch an attack? What precisely are they going to do? Well, here's why they're a threat. They're going to help Trump. Trump. It's all about Trump. Trump derangement syndrome. Trump derangement syndrome. And just so you all get an idea of just how stupid Trump derangement syndrome is, here's how I would identify or define Trump derangement syndrome. I found this online. Trump derangement syndrome. Noun, a long-term mental disorder of a type involving a breakdown in the relation between thought, emotion, and behavior, leading to faulty perception, inappropriate actions and feelings, withdrawal from reality and personal relationships into fantasy and delusion, and a sense of mental fragmentation. See also screaming at the sky. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. Oh no, here comes Donald Trump, the orange boogeyman. Well, it's not my fault. It is not my fault that Trump won in 2016, all right? You had a lackluster politician called Hillary Clinton who ran a failed campaign. And in 2020, everybody who was so blinded by Trump derangement syndrome elected Joe Biden, who has now been struggling and leading this nation through inflation. 2 wars now happening under his watch. Devastating man-made and natural disasters happening with no aid to the people. And the same Joe Biden, whose approval rating is crashing. And so in a hypothetical matchup in New Hampshire, I want to pull up this imagery right here before I play the video from Case Study QB. Here we go. Hypothetical election matchup in New Hampshire. Joe Biden, 40%. Okay, not too bad for Joe Biden. Donald Trump, 37%. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., this will be key for his campaign. Same thing for Cornel West. RFK, 8%, Dr. Cornel West, 1%, and undecided, 14%. This right here, if this is a sign of things to come, should cause panic amongst both Democratic and Republican establishment leaders. Independents will play a key role. Third-party voters will play a key role in this election. And I do hope that said candidates, be it Dr. Jill Stein of the Green Party, Dr. Cornel West, and RFK Jr., are resilient and steadfast in following their campaigns all the way to the end and not letting Trump derangement syndrome get the better of them, because no matter what they do, they're still going to be vilified by corporate media. And I also would apply this to the libertarians as well. Be consistent, be bold, be brave, because no matter what you do, the establishment doesn't like you. Case in point, right here. Oh, wrong video. Let me pull this up here. This segment. Brace yourself. Trump derangement syndrome in full display because third-party voters and third parties are apparently a true threat to democracy.
The battle for control of the Senate took a turn this past week after West Virginia Democrat Joe Manchin announced that he does not plan to seek another term in office. He was facing an uphill battle for re-election already. Now, for months, top Biden advisors reportedly tried to convince Manchin to run again for a Senate seat, telling him that while his path to re-election looked tough, he did, in fact, have a path. But beyond the Senate, Americans are still waiting to see whether the centrist Democrat jumps into the presidential race, which Manchin says he has not yet ruled out. There's been speculation for months that Manchin could try to run for president or vice president as a third-party candidate. And those rumors became even stronger after Manchin headlined a July town hall event for the centrist organization No Labels in the crucial early voting state of New Hampshire. Now, there are many reasons Joe Manchin will give as to why he's choosing to travel the country to, quote, bring Americans together rather than running for his valuable Senate seat. Let's not forget, Democrats' majority is razor thin in the Senate, 51 to 49. But Occam's razor tells us the simplest answer is the one that's most likely. He just didn't see a path to victory in ruby red West Virginia. Instead,
and look, when it comes down to Democrats, especially running in red states, they're never going to be bold and actually be different than their Republican counterparts. They're going to try and be more conservative. And Joe Manchin, the only side he's on is not on his constituent sides. No, he's on his own side. He only cares about himself and his political career and what lies in store the following year and the year after that. That's how DC operates.
now he's embarking on a quest to, quote, mobilize the middle, end quote, of the American electorate. Those whom he says have been ignored by the two-party system. And when he meets them, he'll tell them about how he's not running for president, or that he's thinking about running for president, or that he might run for president. There are even more third-party sideshows this election cycle. Earlier this fall, you'll remember, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced that he's shifting his campaign. He's no longer going to run as a Democrat. He's running as an independent. And recent polling finds he could make a sizable dent in both Trump and Biden's support in key battleground states. Minnesota Congressman and gelato magnate Dean Phillips is challenging Biden for the Democratic nomination. But if you ask him, he's not running against Biden. He's just running for the future with a super PAC and a campaign staff to boot. The progressive activist Cornel West is staying strong with his run as an independent. Jill Stein, whom you'll remember from 2016, announced her candidacy earlier this week under the Green Party. Now, I happen to believe anyone should be able to run for whatever office they choose.
Brace yourself. I want him to talk, but brace yourself. He's going to start off. Everyone should have a right to vote and run for office, but we can't do it this time because the dreaded 5-letter word, Trump. 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 That's who we need to be afraid of.
As is their American right, and in some cases our responsibility. But we are living in perilous times right now. When it comes to this presidential race and this set of...
That is nothing new. I've heard this before. We're living in perilous times. Yes, we are living in perilous times. The inflation is really killing a lot of Americans. Medical bankruptcy, homelessness on the rise, people being evicted from their homes and apartments, people struggling in debt. Yes, perilous times. Perilous times. We got money for 2 wars. We got money to bail out banks and Wall Street. We don't have money to help out people, especially when natural or man-made disasters impact communities, such as the people of Lahaina. One time, $700. Oh, wait. What about the people of East Palestine, Ohio? That train derailment, 4,000 U.S. citizens exposed to dangerous chemicals, stuff that we shouldn't be breathing in or be exposed to. Yes, we are living in perilous times. It's nothing new. Our politicians aren't doing anything to help us. The key word, somehow billions of dollars go to the war in Ukraine. $0 and 0 cents go to the people. Oh, wait, I stand corrected. People Lahaina got a one-time $700. Isn't that special? 7 Benjamins.
Of candidates, what you're really voting for or about is democracy. And anything that gives Donald Trump a better shot at winning the presidency might just be a vote against democracy.
So see, by voting third party, we saw this in 2016 and 2020. By voting third party, you're helping Trump. By voting independent, you're helping Trump. No. If I'm voting third party or independent, my vote is going to said candidate who earned my vote. And look, I don't want to boost anyone's ego, especially the vote blue no matter who crowd, but RFK Jr. and Dr. Cornel West have an arduous task ahead of themselves where they have to secure ballot access. That's going to be a fight altogether on their own. And look, you could write in somebody's name, which is true. Everybody can do that, but ballot access is far more easier. The Greens, Dr. Jill Stein, as it stands right now, 18 states. It's not a lot, but they have plenty of time to gain ground and secure ballot access. The Libertarians are probably in the best position ever because they have around 38 to 40 states secured for ballot access, which is phenomenal. So when it comes down to RFK Jr. and Dr. Cornel West, who are clearly leading or have a severe impact to both Trump and Biden, all this fear mongering is just causing people to not think critically. You have to look at the bigger picture. And I do hope that RFK Jr. and Dr. Cornel West and Dr. Jill Stein and the Libertarians are able to secure all 50 states for ballot access because voters should have the ability to choose who they want to vote. 50% of the population identifies themselves as independent. But when I said on this show way back earlier this year and even the previous year, be prepared for the bullying, the online tactics of fear and Trump and, oh no, how could you even consider voting third party? It's going to be turned up to 11. I encourage all of you to not absorb all the hate and toxicity on social media. I know social media is a cesspool. Nothing I say or do is going to fix it, but I encourage all of you to get ready to put on your mental armor. And occasionally, if you have to turn off social media, do that. I know it's going to be a task, but stay resolute. And if you choose to vote independent or third party, that is your right. If you're not going to vote, hey, that's your right. And look, if you're going to vote Democrat or Republican, fine, that's your right. I'm proud of the diverse audience I have here in my chat, in my community, for subscribers. Everyone vote how you feel like. Because at the end of the day, Goldman Sachs is going to have the final say.
Joining me now is Jennifer Rubin, opinion writer at The Washington Post, host of Jen Rubin's Green Room podcast and an MSNBC political analyst, and Rick Wilson, the co-founder of the Lincoln Project and a former GOP.
I just heard Jennifer Rubin's name and I despaired.
Strategist himself. Welcome to both of you. I have to say, Rick, I love candidates. I like more parties. I think generally speaking, that's a good philosophy. This just doesn't feel like the moment for it right now.
Donald Trump and the autocratic movement that is emerging around him, and if you listen to what he says on the record every day and what his people are telling you they will do, they have a gun to the head of American democracy and this republic. If we elect Donald Trump again, we will not have the country we believe that exists today. We will not have an America with individuals.
I'm going to keep my pausing till a minimum after this, but ever since Citizens United and the McCutcheon's decision was implemented by our Supreme Court, anybody can buy a politician. Anybody can buy a politician, no matter what position said politician is in. Okay? So we don't really have a democracy. We have an oligarchy. Okay? And when it comes down to everyone saying, oh, we'll lose our democracy. Well, I thought January 6th was the day we lost our democracy. Oh, I thought Trump getting elected was the day we lost our democracy. Hell, I remember when George Bush Jr. got elected. Everyone's saying that's the end of our democracy. And hey, let's do the Uno reverse. I remember when conservatives were saying, oh no, Bill Clinton's in office. That's the end of our democracy. Well, kind of was. Oh no, here comes Obama, the end of our democracy. Every time, every single president, Democrat or Republican, it's the end, it's the end, it's the end. All right, well, fast forward. Can we get to the end already? I'm tired of hearing this. Show of hands. How many of you are tired of hearing this? It's the end of our democracy because what? Trump gets elected into office? At this point, if the media is incapable of understanding who Trump is, that's their own fault. Yes, Trump knows how to manipulate the crowd. He knows how to manipulate the mob. He knows how to put his name front and center in the headlines. And the press has to absorb it because, you know what? Trump was good for their ratings. I'm pretty sure behind the scenes at MSNBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, they're just foaming at the mouth and saying, thank you, God, that Trump is back. Hell, probably many of them are secretly hoping he gets reelected so they can talk about him. That was Rachel Maddow's bread and butter. Corporate media needed Trump. Hell, Vice, BuzzFeed, the Jezebel needed Trump. He was good for their numbers. Corporate media doesn't want to end up like those outlets. So everyone's saying that Trump is a threat to democracy. How? In comparison to his other contemporaries that are serving in Washington, D.C., there are far more worse people out there than Donald Trump. Trump is not the end-all, be-all villain. He's one of the many side bosses.
Individual liberties, rights, and freedoms. We will have an autocratic system run by Donald Trump and a claque of these weirdo alt-right guys that surround him, like Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller and the rest. And everyone, as you correctly said, everyone else in this race, at the end of the day, that pulls a single vote away from Joe Biden, they're not just voting for Trump. They're voting to end this country as we know it.
Jen Rubin, you know, you're on our air a lot, and you're such an expert on so many things, but you actually dig really deep into this issue, right, about how to make elections more fair and how to make voting more fair. You think about this. You're sort of an advanced thinker on this front, and I would think that in general you also support the concept of more people running and maybe another political party growing in time. Do you agree that this is, as Rick says, a mighty perilous time to be playing with fire?
I apologize. I know I said I was going to pause, but brace yourself. she's going to speak. And I pause at a horrible time, too, when she's about to talk. But I'm so sorry you must be bombarded with this.
Absolutely. First of all, none of these people have a rationale for running other than I want to be president or I want to have some attention. When No Labels was actually forced to put out what it thought it was running about, it was just bland platitudes. It ducked issues like abortion, which Americans care about deeply. So these are essentially vanity projects. If any of them actually wanted to advance a specific agenda, they might have some legitimate reason for running. But as Rick says, at this point, there is only one issue, and that is democracy. And granted, some of these people aren't going to qualify for the ballot because if you're not on a party ticket line, it takes a lot of energy, a lot of money, a lot of votes to get yourself on the ballot. So some of these people we're not going to have to worry about come November. But Jill Stein, my gosh, didn't she and Democrats and progressives learned their lesson in 2000? Al Gore would have been president if not for Jill Stein. So this is just a suicide.
Don't you mean Hillary Clinton? Al Gore? Al Gore? What? Al Gore would have been president? Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. Let's just rewind back the clocks here for a second. I'm going to go on the Google machine here and type how many times Dr. Jill Stein ran for office. How many times did Dr. Jill Stein ran for office? So here we go. Wikipedia, not the most trusted source out there, but all right, let's go with it. Let's go. All right, 2012. Huh. Okay, 2012. Okay. I think a guy named Obama was running. I think he won 2012. Let's see who else we got here. We've got 2016 and 2024. Now, last I checked, George Bush Jr. 2001 to 2009. Who was the Green Party? Oh, yeah, Ralph Nader. Did you get that confused? She probably did. Okay, just throwing it out there. And hey, all of you can do that Google research yourselves too. See, I encourage all of you to do your own research. This whole idea of attention, well, yes, anybody who's running for president wants to be president, and if you're running for any kind of office, you want attention. That's a key for a successful campaign, be it Democrat or Republican. Everyone wants attention. That's just how it is. It's how humans act in general.
For democracy. This is a kamikaze plunge into the abyss. And really, the people who encourage them are cynical or manipulative. The No Labels people are not centrist. They're self-promoters. And the people behind them are, frankly, big, rich Republican donors who want to help Donald Trump any way they can.
Right. And yet, Stu, yet, Rick, what does Manchin say? He's mobilizing the middle. There's a weird appeal to that, right? If you think you're in the middle, and a lot of Americans do and should be, and that's the sign of a healthy democracy. But he's trying to say that there's a reason that he's doing this. Jill Stein, at some point, someone's just got to figure this out, right? That there's something up with Jill Stein. RFK Jr. is a conspiracy theorist who's been denounced by everybody from his family to most mainstream Democrats. But Manchin's got this weird appeal that he's trying to make to say,
I like how they're promoting Manchin as better than RFK Jr. or Jill Stein. I mean, at this point, you should have started in early 2023 when the year started to build your infrastructure up. Unless you got a lot of corporate backing, which I could see Manchin securing, you have to get ballot access. That's the key word, ballot access, ballot access. This is nothing but an echo chamber. This is what you're going to see ad infinitum throughout all of 2024. Be afraid of third parties. Be afraid of independents. You're going to help Trump.
You're in the middle, and I'm going to speak for you.
You know, look, Joe Manchin has done a lot of image shaping for himself over the years, and he's leveraged the fact that he was a Democrat in a very red state to become sort of a tie-breaking vote over and over again. He's held the White House hostage repeatedly. Look, there's nothing about Joe Manchin's philosophy or character in the record that shows it's about anything more than Joe Manchin. He is a guy who has consistently been considered one of the most venal and frankly, you know, on the verge of or over the line of being one of these transactional Republican figures that on paper everyone should hate. The idea that this is a guy who lives on a extraordinarily expensive yacht in Washington Harbor, holds court with lobbyists 24 hours a day, is not exactly the appealing idea that most Americans who think they're in the sensible center embrace. But I will say this, he is a guy who has shown over and over again that he puts himself well before any other interest in the country. Again, he's held Joe Biden hostage repeatedly on legislative matters. And folks in Washington who know Joe Manchin, he'd be very low on the trust tier for most people who know his record, his personality, and his character.
I want to say that that's all. But there's a part 2. And if I had to sit through it, so did you, because you have to see just how deplorable corporate media is going to get when it comes down to Trump derangement syndrome and the end-all be-all fear of Donald Trump. Like, I don't know what a second term of a Trump presidency will look like. In all honesty, look, you want to see our leaders succeed. Truly, you do. You don't want to be cynical and say, I want to see a person fail. No, because we're all on this ship together. And if the ship sinks, we're all going to end up like the people of the Lusitania or the Titanic, going to the bottom of the ocean. And trust me on it, folks, we don't want to be on that kind of ship. We want somebody who is a proper and responsible and intelligent captain. But we're not going to get that.
Writer at the Washington Post and MSNBC political analyst Rick Wilson, co-founder of the Lincoln Project and former GOP strategist. Jen, for some of these some of these fringe candidates, we're talking about taking votes away at the margin. But there is such deep dissatisfaction with politics in America today. Is there a possibility that one of these candidates, and it's probably more a Manchin character than anyone else, taps into that deep?
They keep on promoting Manchin. It's not going to play out that way.
Dissatisfaction and ends up with double-digit support.
It's very unlikely. Remember Ross Perot, who was heavily funded, well-known, a national figure, got 0 electoral votes. So the last time really a third-party candidate made any way in the race was in 1968 when George Wallace won a bunch of the southern states. So the track record is not good. And listen, No Labels admits that it's a spoiler. Now its plan is, get this, that it's going to throw the presidential race to the House of Representatives. Yes, those very same people who cannot pass a budget and take 15 votes to elect their own speaker. What a nightmare that would be. But really, if we're looking at someone who we want to be a centrist, a deal maker, bipartisan, that's Joe Biden.
After the previous videos I played of Biden struggling at that press event, numerous press events to be more precise, how does that install confidence? I'm with sickness and a pit in my stomach. I'm curious to see just how they're going to promote this. It's at this point you're seeing a madman paint with feces and say, hey, this is a work of art. No, this is not art. None of this makes any sense. You're having the same problem that you did in 2020, and that is you're promoting somebody who's not mentally fit for office.
He's the one who passed bipartisan infrastructure. He's the one who passed bipartisan chips bill. He's the one who has passed a slew of popular measures. So the guy who's already in the race is pretty much as centrist as we get in American politics these days. But I will say this. One thing that I think voters have to think about when they go into the voting booth is, if my vote was the decisive one in the election, in other words, the election came down to me, who do I really want to be president?
And I want to stop there because the shrilling is too much. I'll play one more video of MSNBC having Trump derangement syndrome, this time from a different group of people. And they're going to tell you, you need to feed this to them. Any vote for these third parties is a vote for Trump. Look, if you vote for RFK Jr., you're voting for RFK Jr. If you're voting for Dr. Cornel West, you're voting for Dr. Cornel West. Now, those two candidates have to secure ballot access. Just want to drill that in everyone's head. Now, let's say Manchin runs. Well, No Labels is a corporatist party. don't be fooled. It doesn't have your best interest. If you're going to vote for Joe Manchin, fine, go ahead. You're voting for Joe Manchin. If you're voting for Dr. Jill Stein, you're voting for Dr. Jill Stein. If you're going to vote for one of the Libertarian candidates, whoever secures the nomination at the end of this year, guess what? You voted for a Libertarian candidate. You want to know what all those candidates have in common? They're not Trump, but your vote went to them. They didn't steal your vote. They earned your vote. And if you're choosing not to vote, that is your choice as well. Your vote is not entitled to any politician, be it a Democrat, Republican, or independent. Your vote is your own vote. Hell, that's the only thing we have left in this democracy, in this republic of ours. That's it. And corporate media is turning it up. The Trump derangement syndrome.
So what I'd say, though, Joy, is I think most of the people that are going to decide this election, people right now in polls who might say, you know, all things being equal, maybe I'd vote for Trump. People who are still undecided, you know, progressives and young people who haven't decided who to vote for, whether to vote. They don't know this is what he's going to do. So we have to understand that that's what the campaign is for. The campaign is to feed this, because the percentage of Americans that would support, by the way, it's scary how high it is. Maybe 30%, maybe 35, but it's not 50. And you need to feed this to them each and every day so that you raise the stakes of this election. And then the important point you raised is you've got to make sure that voters understand there is only one way to save the country, and it is to vote for Joe Biden. And any vote to these third parties is a vote for Trump. Because Trump, I don't know, you know, I worry about these latest polls because he is at 49, 50, 51, higher than he's ever been. But I think that that'll look different in the spring. But he's not going to fall below like 45. So if there's too many third-party votes splintering, he's going to win. So that's what the campaign is for, is to make sure that all this stuff that we're spending all time seeing, which again is deeply, deeply unpopular. So this is not a guy, last thing I'll say, who's decided, you know what? I lost in 20. My party was awful in 18. We got our butt kicked in 22. We just had a bad election week. I need to change. He's doubling down on basically, destruction of this country. And we have to explain that and explain why that's important.
I let that play in its entirety because, the longer I keep it on pause, the more we have to sit through it. We had to get through the end of that. Folks, I get why people are afraid of a second Trump presidency. I get it. But see, the problem about Trump is that he wasn't the mastermind of the decades before that created this neoliberal system. Now, of course, he got elected into office in 2016, so he's part of it too, but he's not the architect. He did contribute, but in comparison to other presidents and other politicians, his actions are a blip on the radar. All what he did was remove the fancy neoliberal mask that Democrats and Republicans put on to lie to the American people. I want everyone to think clearly and not let this constant bullying and harassment get the better of your ability to think critically for yourself. Break away from corporate media and the two-party system. Break away from the propaganda. Look, whether or not Trump gets elected or not, whether or not Biden gets elected or not, it's up in the air. But we have to start building movements and organizations not connected to DC, and perhaps maybe, this is going to be my hope for idealism, and I'm ready to be proven wrong on this, where we see independent candidates, maybe one or two, or maybe the Greens or Libertarians actually secure some electoral college votes. I know that's a tough bridge to cross. But that's what's needed for to really shake up the American people and to shake up this political system. Something has to change because what's working right now isn't helping us out. People are scared. People are frightened. And it's important for us to work together so that we could and can build a better future. But being afraid, it is counterproductive. The watchword is being brave. Be brave in 2024. And you can be brave alongside with Hard Lens Media. Because we're not going to fall into the trap of fear. Don't let it get the better of you. Stay strong and be brave.